Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back into the Buster Show. On today's episode, we have another person who I consider one of the greatest pound for pound basketball players to ever live. And that is because we have the professor on the show. My friend, how are you?
Hey, thanks for having me, man. I'm great. I'm great.
Awesome. So I wanted to start this off by asking you, you're somebody who I consider you are one of the very few people who played basketball both pre-social media, during social media, and then created a career, on social media. What was it like? Did you have any aspirations? Because you really hit the scene when you started playing and one, if I'm not mistaken. So when you were in that sort of scene, did you ever think that there was going to be another level of media? Did you think that you were going to be watched on the internet, or what was media at that time?
I had hoped, but my second chance, so to speak, like in my career, my second chance to have like a big audience really was a blessing. You know what I mean? Because usually somebody gets one opportunity, you don't usually get two. So what you might not know is that and one got bought out by a different entity in 2006, and then they only did the tour for 2 more years up until 2008, and then it just ended abruptly. Like it was just over, and we didn't even get a call. Like it was just done. No ESPN show, no contract renewal, no shoes, no sponsorship, no anything. And so it was hard times for myself and a few of the guys. From what I'm hearing, I can't speak for everybody, but from what I'm hearing, even from their stories, it was like rough times. So my YouTube, the starting of my YouTube was an attempt to make a business, but it was also an attempt to just hopefully get more bookings, because back then it was still more about the live show.
Right.
And one was in 40 plus countries at the time. So they were starting to find out what happened in the United States, and that they weren't going to bring us on their tour. So they're hitting us directly. And they were saying, hey, do you want to come play these games? And so I'd go do like and one Africa, and one Brazil, and one Russia. And basically YouTube was the tool to show them like I'm still out here playing.
Right.
And then 2013 had a video go viral, million subscribers in a week. So it turned into a business quick. Yeah.
Wow. That's pretty crazy.
Yeah. So no, it was a blessing, man. My second wave was a blessing. I had 17,000 subscribers before that video.
So that's crazy. What video was it?
It was Spider-Man Basketball episode 1.
Pretty perfect timing, that whole series too, with how Marvel became the center of cinema in that time period.
Yeah, literally. And we tacked on to, I think at the time, Spider-Man 2 had come out with Andrew Garfield, the ones with Andrew Garfield. And so I remember my initial title actually had Spider-Man 2 in parentheses at the end of it, you know what I mean, to try to get those search
right,
keywords come up in the search initially, and I ended up changing it later as it became more episodic. But yeah, man, it was definitely a blessing for sure. Good timing.
That's awesome. I saw you tweet something the other day, that there are great hoopers everywhere on the entire planet, in every country. I feel like that's something that most people don't understand, thinking that they're, the greatest player in the world because they're the best at their YMCA. At what point did you sort of realize that? And, if you want to elaborate at all on how true that is.
Oh, it's so true. Me and my homie Air, we were just talking about how like a lot of people, they got small tunnel vision. They're good with their own crowd, or they're good with the white people basketball crowd, or good with their, you know what I mean? Like,
right.
They're good in their own pockets, but then when they get, when the lights come on and it's like a lot better comp, it's a different story. So you end up finding out. For me, I found out internationally there's great hoopers everywhere when I signed with N1. And the first, I think I signed a contract 2003. We did a summer tour all around the United States. That was even eye-opening too. Even in the tryouts going around the United States, shocked how many players are pretty dang good or got crazy hops, but couldn't really like get on, And then that winter, we went to Europe and we did like a 15 city European tour. So that was my introduction to international. And then from there, I think that January '04 went to Australia. And then, you know, from there we went to Asia and all these places. And it's just, my eyes were open that wherever we went, we were playing pro teams. And this wasn't even, you know, sometimes it would be a D2 pro team, but like dudes could play, you know what I mean? So when I said great hoopers everywhere, like an NBA player might not say that, because their definition of great would be like, can you play in the league?
Right.
I was speaking more from just you know, a lower standard than them, but like tough hoopers. Like I consider somebody who can play semi-professional basketball and score, you know, 25 and have like 7 assists. Like you got to be pretty dang good. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's pro level hoopers everywhere. It's crazy.
That's amazing. Now, what are there any countries that, you know, have great hoopers that you think might surprise people?
Absolutely. I think see that, and that's what surprised me. We would go to like these little countries that you never even heard of,
Right.
find hoopers. So like you could go to New Zealand and find some like good pro hoopers that, you know, countries you don't even think about. Philippines got hoopers.
I was just gonna say the
Yeah,
Filipino basketball and NBA fan community is unreal.
unreal. And then, you know, it's more known today about like the Chinese, since NBA players, a lot of them when they drop on the NBA, they go play in China, right? So it's
Right.
like more common knowledge that China has hoopers, but
Shanghai Sharks. Yeah.
it was unknown, you know, 20 years ago when we started going to Asia. I mean, that was unknown, right? There wasn't as much social media. You don't really like see what's going on over there. So to know that there was like hoopers in Asia, because typically, just stereotypically speaking, you don't think of Asians as great basketball players. But man, you go to China and Japan, you'd be like, these dudes are monsters, you know?
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. Now, at you know, is there anywhere, because you for and one you traveled all around the world, you went country to country, and then afterwards you went country to country. Is there anywhere that you haven't played yet that you want to play? Like, is literally anywhere?
Yeah, I would love to play in Egypt, an outdoor court in Egypt. I think that would be cool. I don't even know if a basketball court exists, like with the pyramids in the background. Now I do
That
things
would be
for
dope.
video aesthetic. You know what I mean? So I think
Right.
that, like 2018, we went to Uganda, Africa. I got to hoop on a dirt court. You know what I mean? Like with this African college team, it was so fun, and we made some awesome videos from it. So now I think about that. But yeah, like somewhere like Egypt, I think would be really dope. Even going back to Africa, you know, I've been to Africa only in two different countries, Angola and Uganda. I would like to expand, maybe South Africa, maybe Nigeria. Um, there's some places in Eastern Europe I think that would be cool. Where else? Oh, always looking to expand, like if somewhere in the islands or the Caribbean or something. You can't go wrong
Right.
with that.
Do you
Probably.
have do you have a favorite court in the world if you had to pinpoint one?
Um, where is my favorite court in the world? From a scenery standpoint, I actually like the Laguna Beach courts out here. They're on Main Beach. I've made 5 or 6 videos in there, and every video I made from there never did not go viral. So that's stamp that. That's like my court. You know what I mean? The Laguna half courts. But if we're talking about from crowd energy standpoint, it's hard to say which court, but there's some incredible courts like in New York where like if you play, the crowd energy is going to be on 1,000.
Oh
You can't
yeah.
really
West
playing in,
4th Street's incredible.
yeah, playing in Madison Square Garden is
Oh
incredible.
yeah.
So, you know, even Venice Beach is dope. So I guess it just depends, you know.
Totally. Now, I have a logistical question for you. You played basketball in a prison. How does one go about setting something like that up? Is that something you obviously didn't go to jail, you know? So how do you how do you get in there? How do you set that up? How do you keep it cool? Because, you know, not the safest place in the world, obviously.
Yeah. So there was an organization, it was a ministry. This ministry set that up. So it was actually, I found a guy named Jay Lyons. I love this guy. He's an amazing producer, cinematographer, director. And I saw some of his work. You know, he did like this shows on MTV in the past. He won awards for. He's done shows for like a lot of major networks. So dude's work was like on point, and he agreed to do my documentary. So we shook hands on that, And I was like, cool. And then he asked me, we're both Christians. So he asked me as a favor, like, he's like, hey, I'm doing these episodes for Prison Fellowship was the name of the ministry. He was like, would you want to come to prison and tell your life story? And then hopefully we can get cleared to play ball, one of them, and then make a really dope YouTube video. And so I was like, cool. And at the time, I never really had anybody who was like corporate, who didn't like shoot basketball content or really like be in the basketball world, be able to shoot a video for me and do it right. Because on YouTube, it has to be shot a certain way. So I thought it was going to be kind of corporate, but I liked the idea of being impactful from a ministry standpoint. So I agreed, like, tell my story. And then we went out there, and then we did actually went to 3 prisons. I told my life story, 3 different spots. And then the last one, we got cleared to play ball. And so I forgot about it. You know, we left, I was really impacted just by the experience, being there in person, seeing what that looks like, talked to a bunch of prisoners, sat in their cell, ate with them. Crazy experience. But as far as the video, I was like, oh, it'll probably be all right. Who knows? You know what I mean? So he sent me the video 3 weeks later, and I watched it, and I'm like critical because I'm an editor. I'm a video editor. So I have mad feedback from my editors. You know, when I see a video,
Right.
I have no feedback. He sent me, and I was like, wow, well, we'll upload it. Cool. You know? And so I uploaded it. It was like 16 million in 1 week on that vid. And took my subscriber level to, you know, to a different level as well. So, so yeah, that's what it was. It was more about impact, you know.
Is that your favorite video you've ever made?
That's one of my favorite 2 or 3 videos on the channel for sure. But it's the best produced video by far.
Got it. This is something I think about often, because on social media, it's funny because production quality can often hurt performance of videos. How do you sort of try to walk that tightrope of, I want it to look really nice, but people on the internet aren't used to really nice, so oftentimes they won't watch it because it's really nice, and the iPhone quality video does better?
I think there's a good balance between highly produced. Like if you watch my most recent video on YouTube right now, the same guy who made the prison video made this video where like I was in a disguise and I went to the Laguna courts and like people around there, and I actually interviewed him, and I tried to bring up myself. And I said, you think you could beat that guy or whatever? And then the next thing I take off my wig, I said, all right, let's do it. You know, and people are like, what?
That's
So,
great.
but we could have overproduced it and made it not good. But there's a balance in keeping it fast, keeping it interesting, and then using music that fits your audience, and then not making it look too TV. It's still kind of like vloggy. There's a
Right.
balance. It's really hard to explain cookie cutter what that should look like, because the reality is for every video that would look different, you know? So I think there's a balance. I think overproduce, I think when it gets too corporate and corny music, and it needs to resonate sauce, because now the appeal from people love like hip hop. So if it doesn't resonate like this is hot in this like
Yeah,
hip hop cool way, then it's gonna be tough. You know what I mean?
100%.
Yeah, because I have done the overproduced before too, but I don't even know if it's overproduced. I just felt like it was kind of corny. It was just kind of corny. You know what I mean?
Yeah, my take always on that sort of thing was the highly produced stuff is better long term. Like in 5 years, in 10 years, that's the content that's the most evergreen, if there were a scale of content that were to survive for a long time. And the, you know, less produced stuff is a little bit more shorter form, like shorter term in terms of evergreen, and it'll probably perform a lot better in the short term. But you know, it also all depends on what people's goals are, right? Because I
Yeah,
think
it does. You know, depend on what they like too. Because for example, the number one video on my channel actually isn't that prison, the pretty
right,
prison 50 some mil, but the number one video is shot on 2 iPhone 7s on my channel. But the reason it is because it's a basketball video that you could watch. Here we are, we're actually 5 years out from it now, but it still is one of the top performing videos on my channel every week because of what was captured and how it went down, as opposed to like a lifestyle vlogger who goes more like iPhone style. Are you going to watch what they did on a random Tuesday in January 5 years from now? Probably it just becomes less interesting.
Totally. Especially, I mean, if the content matter is specific to that time or anything like that.
Easily,
Um,
right? Right.
but I think it's also a matter of like what do people want to do with their show or their thing? Because if your content's well produced, you can go out and sell that, IP to Amazon or Netflix or start your own company doing it. The possibilities are endless, the better, the production is. So there's that element of it too.
Yeah, no, 100%, 100%. And I think now I would say most vloggers or most YouTubers are making stuff for the moment. Like a lot of people, like you consume it for about, definitely when it first comes out, for maybe a week or so, and then some maybe live a little bit longer, but 90% of them are just like at that time, and then it's more about volume and just keeping it going. That's probably the most common way.
Totally. Now you're somebody who's lasted for a very long time on social. And I've said this before on this podcast. I think the average influencer career is shorter than the average NFL career. Now, what do you think has been sort of what has allowed you to survive for so much longer on social?
I think I learned that you have your brand, you kind of have to evolve. You can't do the same thing for 10 years, right? Like it kind of has to evolve. So yes, I play basketball, but I'm always thinking of like new themes and new concepts. Try to add a couple new moves every so many years. Doing collabs recently. My homie Erdizi, he was encouraging me to like do collabs, mix it up with like the gamers and gamer hoopers, and yeah, expansion is always going to be about keeping your audience interested at the most simplest level. It's like, how do you keep their
Right.
interest long term? And so I think what happens is you just have to have a lot of variety and kind of like rebrand. For example, like we did Spider-Man basketball videos for a long time. We did them from about 2013 to 2016 or 17, maybe even 2018. You know what I mean? Like did one or two. And if you look at the viewership on them, like they went really crazy for about 3 years, but then it like started to kind of like tail off. And I think for me, what I realized is just like it was time to let's do something else. Even though we did other videos in the middle, it's just like let's come up with new and other cool, interesting concepts and funny stuff and morph into a different way. So I think that's what happens. And I think also influencers don't know that it's a long-term play to getting a mass audience. Like some people can do it in a year, like some people can, but you're looking at the less than 1%. I'd say less than, 0.5% of
I
people.
think it's like a handful of people
Yeah,
every
who
year.
blow
Yeah.
up fast.
Yeah.
Like there's people who do blow a channel up in like 1 year, and they're getting like a few of them got millions of views, a few of the videos. So I think you just have to understand that's a rare thing. I tell YouTubers, you want to hop in and you're starting now, I say, cool, it's never too late, because the platforms are never going to disallow you to be able to like grow, right? It's never too late. But it's like a 3 to 5 year investment before you start getting a couple thousand views per video. It could be that long. That's the reality.
Totally. I
And
think
a
that's
lot of people, they give up before that. That's the thing.
totally. And I think, the what's super true about that is that the fact that it takes, a few years to get that 1,000 views, that 1,000 views is a metric that can be applied over to any other career path. That level of success can take that same amount of time to accomplish. So do you think sort of the key for that for you is how hypercritical you are of everything?
Yeah, I think that plays a role. I think it definitely plays a role. And I think you're right. That level of success in a different genre, like a different job or whatever, it always is a long-term investment, right? But I think that's going back to what I said, is like people are too caught up on the 0.5% or 0.01% that go crazy every video and have a mass audience. We look at that and we're like, why can't I do that? It's like, well, hey, there's 6 billion people in the world, probably a couple billion of them on social. Like it's nice, it's mad competition out here, but it's easy to watch those handful that you see all the time crush it and think that you could slide in that spot. The reality is like super difficult. And so, yeah, I think like I've always aimed to make timeless content if
Mhm.
I could, because what I do know is incredible basketball never gets old as long as basketball is popular. Well, what is
Right.
basketball doing globally? It's only getting more popular and expanding. So it's a great time to be on some b-ball stuff. But that's why I always try to play different than NBA players. Like I don't want to do conventional moves. I'm always trying to play a really unique way that you can't catch anywhere else, or at least I try, you know?
Totally. No, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah. So I think good production, evolving, being, you know, picky about your edits. Like we're picky now about what we shoot. I don't want to put out a video on YouTube if I don't feel like it can do 7 figures. Don't even want to put it out. But 3 years ago, I still was in a mind frame of like, oh, this one won't do 7 figures, but it'll bridge me. It's a filler video. So we don't even do fillers no more.
So will you ever film stuff and then not like it enough to put it out?
All the time. All the time. I mean, you try not to waste a day, you know. We a lot of times we can grab something out of the day, but I'm so much more picky as of even just like the last like year and a half or so. That easily we could hoop and just not upload that day. Like, yeah, for sure.
Right.
Yeah. Another thing, you know, little YouTube trick is, hey, if we have a great story that led to us hooping somewhere and we didn't quite go crazy that day from a highlight standpoint, like maybe we won and it was cool, but it wasn't like super captivating. We're going back the next day. We're in the same outfit, same lighting, same everything. We're going to go back the next day and we're going to get it right. That happens sometimes, you know?
I love that. Yeah. You know, I think it's funny too, you know, how people, like you said, always try to compare to those few people who blew up in a year or a few months or whatever it is. But in reality, the, you know, age-old tale is true that the quicker you rise, the harder you fall. And that I think the worst thing that can happen, I'm curious your thought on this too, is for your first video to go viral, because then it sets a false precedent where you also have no content. Like somebody goes to your pages or looks you up and there's nothing else there. You're alone, your solo videos alone. And then you now have this internal competition to replicate something that you didn't even know how you created in the first place. And, you know, I had this awesome former WWE star on the show a few weeks ago, Mickey James, and she said, you don't want to be overexposed before you're ready. And I thought about that a bunch. I'm like, you know what? You're right. You don't want to be overexposed before you're ready. And I think that's an example of how for a lot of people, they want to be exposed, but they don't realize that it's actually being overexposed.
I think you make a really good point. I think it's a great point. You know, and I think also what weighs in that too is a lot of people don't understand marketing reach and views. So like, let's say I start a YouTube channel today, right? First video does 1 million views. Now, some people might get really Hollywood and think they're famous. You know what I mean? But the reality is, and what I know is from being in business for a long time, I try to only look at the mass market. Like I try to evaluate it based on the mainstream and the mass market. Even today on my channel, I know for 100% fact that only 10 videos hit the mainstream or like the mass market. The reality is, if you do a video gets 1 million views in a week, if you're zooming out and looking at the everybody, the mass market, nobody saw that video for real, not for real. You know what I mean? But
Right.
Who has that perspective? You kind of have to be in the game for a while and really understand marketing and viewership and how that works. Because like you said, people can get an unhealthy standard trying to meet that mark. You know, that definitely happens. And then you don't really know. Let's say you did 5 videos in a row and they all got over 1 million. You might think like you're ready to have a TV show or like do some incredible things, not knowing that like that was 5 million views. That's just like, that was dope. Don't get me wrong, but like it doesn't mean you're gonna be a millionaire. So people have unrealistic, delusional viewpoints. Like
Yeah.
I see all the time. Air Dog, my homie Air over here, we were just talking about how we knew somebody who recently blew up in the YouTube space. Like he is going crazy. He has like 20 some videos or whatever, but they're doing over a couple mil. And this dude on Instagram, now he talking crazy about other influencers. I did this in a shorter time, what took you years to do, and we doing
Oh
X,
no.
blah blah blah. And it's just like that dude's got too narrow of a scope. You know what I mean? Like he's not wrong for it. He just don't know. He doesn't understand. But that's a lot of people. I would say a lot of people don't have good perspective on reach and what that actually means. And
Yeah.
then, like you said, you can get those unhealthy standards easily.
I think such a great point too that, it's important to touch on is how much easier it is doing what you love. Like obvious, it's so apparent that you do what you love. I mean, you couldn't do it for as long as you've done it without loving to play basketball every day and playing in front of crowds and learning new moves and playing with players. So, I think that how important do you think that is, or can you even, put words to that because it's everything?
Yeah, I would say it's one of the most important aspects. You know what I mean? Probably the most important, I would say. And then also though, you gotta like production. You gotta learn to like production. So me hopping into this 13 years ago, homie showed me how to use Final Cut Pro. And that was my first level production. That's all I knew. I knew that I had like a flip cam, we could press record and it's autofocus and that works just for phones and selfies and smartphones. And I knew that if I got the footage from that, we throw that on Final Cut Pro and I could edit that and that could go on YouTube. That's all I knew about production to start with. So, but I was interested in it and I actually liked the idea of like editing a piece because it is art. You know what I mean? So I learned to like that art myself. And then when it came time to get a staff and a team, you can commission them because you like it yourself. So you're able to learn all about it and then convey it to them. Now, some people can just right off the gate hire somebody who knows production and just like does their thing. But art, how long are you going to get somebody to carry that weight? It's almost like you got to learn it yourself and you got to like it. So I think the production is a big part because I know a lot of people who are talented and they could have channels with 7-figure subscribers. But the problem is they don't like production themselves and they're not good at hiring a team that can do it for them because they don't even know how to convey it. They don't know how to communicate it. So that's a big aspect too.
Totally. Yeah, loving the production aspect of it is something I doubt very many people actually enjoy because it is a grind and it can be this, conflicting thing where you think that you're bigger than you are, but then you have to do the grind. So it's balancing those two things. Like you could go out and hit a game-winning shot in front of 20,000 people, but then have to go home and like edit a video for 4 hours. Like that is not a very like cool thing, but it's just the reality that people don't like to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, here's a reality for some people that don't know. I have a team. I still edit every now and again. Like if it's a banger and I had a vision for it and I know this is going to be a good one, I actually still edit the video, believe it or not.
Great.
I know, and I like team of editors, but I own it, the production. I actually enjoy it. So you're right, I can't spend mad time editing. It takes a lot, but still dabbling in it even today. So yeah, you got to have a healthy view of it, right?
It's all about the mindset, that's for sure. Now, last question for you. What excites you the most right now in general?
What excites me the most right now? Good question. I think taking things to the next level. So I'm trying to hire more people onto my team so I can take things to the next level. For example, we're gonna keep Professor Live just how it is, but even be a little bit more consistent on the uploads. Right now we're like 1 a week, some very rarely, sometimes 2 a week. I'd love to be at 2 a week all the time and aiming for bangers only. And then on my BTS channel, I want to just throw up anything and everything and really expand on that. So the expansion of more uploads excites me. And then also starting an online program, crossover5.com. People can go sign up for it right now, but it's going to be my online. Like people always ask me, number one thing, like, how do I dribble like you? Can you teach me? Can you train me? And the reality is I don't have enough time. We spread too thin, right?
Right.
More about content and entertainment. So I'm going to do an online course where people could sign up monthly and I could be your digital trainer. And it'll be mainly centered in ball handling, but kind of like all skills. So trying to launch that within the next couple months. So I'm really excited about that.
That's amazing. Congratulations.
Thanks. Well,
Awesome. Well, thank you so much again for doing this. It's been a pleasure, and we'll have to do this again sometime.
Hey, thanks a lot, man. Appreciate the
All right,
time.
everybody. We'll see ya. Peace.